Hi, I'm Robert Medley with the Oklahoman, and I'm here today with Lorrie and Larry Collins of the Collins Kids, America's biggest, best boy-girl band of the 50s, boy and girl. Larry Collins,
Robert,
known for playing the double neck guitar on a pogo stick, and
well, I dreamed of heaven and something, my baby. Yeah, I dreamed of heaven and something, my baby. He had pretty white teeth and cold black girl I had. Let's ho and ho and ho, yeah, ho and ho and skip.
and the lovely teen heartthrob Lorrie, looking as lovely and pretty as ever.
Oh, thank you, Robert.
How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
We're happy to be in Oklahoma.
should we give them the treatment? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm Larry.
I'm Lorrie.
We're the Collins Kids. We started doing that, well, when Lorrie and I first started in show business about in the 1953, 54. We actually started separately, and then Mom and Dad finally put us together, and it became the Collins Kids.
Well, I think you've been introduced on the town hall party a number of times like that.
Right.
I didn't practice my Tex Ritter for this, but first, Larry, I would like to maybe say that perhaps you would be America's original little punk rocker. Although you hollered hoy, hoy, hoy instead of oi, oi, oi. But you played fast, you played loud, and you couldn't hold still. So, Lorrie, my question to you, was he really a punk or just a twerp? Or was punk a word in the 50s?
Well, you know, I don't know, maybe it was. I never considered him, you know, being my brother. I had a lot of names for him.
Well, you're honest about it, anyway.
Well,
but he was a good guy. He was just, he was full of energy, full of fun. He never ceased to amaze me when he would dance around me, and I thought he was going to kill me, you know, and
or maybe trip over
wrap the cords around my legs. And so he was always, you never knew what was going to happen with him.
Still don't really, do you?
Never, no.
But, well, then any truth to the song Hush Money about a younger brother who wants funds to keep his big sister's secrets? What's the story behind that one?
Well, her and Ricky Nelson used to pay me to keep my mouth shut. No doubt about it.
We weren't allowed to. I wasn't allowed to go to a drive-in movie
unless they took me.
And so, Mom and Dad made Larry go with Ricky and I.
Wow.
And we gave him lots of money to go to the snack bar.
What movies do you remember seeing then with Ricky Nelson?
Gosh, I don't even remember the movie.
Well, do you remember what you
Ricky
drove?
Nelson.
Oh!
Yeah,
Okay,
back then I think Ricky was driving what was that Studebaker hot rod?
A hot rod. Well,
Studebaker made a sports car back in the 50s, and that Ricky had.
I don't remember the name.
Can't remember the name of it.
but I guess you kind of rebelled a little against country and western. Talk to me about how you got into playing rock and roll in those days.
Well, you know, when I got my first guitar, it was a little Stella guitar, and I got it for Christmas. And what Lorrie and I, you know, we have a gift, and my mom showed me a couple of chords, and by the end of the day, I was playing and singing, and guitar was just part of my soul. So, you know, and you see those kids that sit down at the piano, which they could play the piano, I could play the guitar, which is, thank the Lord.
Wow.
But by the end of the day, on Christmas, we'd go out to our grandma and grandpa's farm, and of course, our family was musical. You know, we'd sing at church, and Mom, when she was young, was a fiddle player, mandolin player.
Lots of Bob Wills music, that kind of
Western
thing.
swing?
Yeah.
And then gospel music. And then I don't know, for some reason, I liked to listen to the blues back then, you know, and it would come on the radio. So and I'm probably the poster child for Ritalin, if you want to know the truth. But I sang my song at the Christmas get-together, and I jumped up and down and just went absolutely crazy. It was in my bones, the music in my bones. And they all laughed at me. And it really hurt my feelings because I thought I tore them a new one. You know? And I went outside. The story has been embellished, but the truth of the story is I laid my Stella guitar up against the outhouse and I shot it with a BB gun in the back and cried. And Mom came out and consoled me and said, you know, that's the way you feel your music. It was good. They liked it. They were just kind of taken back a little. So it wasn't anything I thought about or anything I think about now when I go on stage. Even at this age, when I play, I boogie. I gotta move.
It's not just your fingers that are moving. I noticed you have and still probably do the footsteps, the kind of the Little Richard, or Chuck Berry maybe, walk there around.
Well, actually, it's Larry Collins.
Chuck Berry stole it from Larry Collins.
Well, I don't know if he stole it, but Larry was doing it.
Yeah,
I learned something
Christmas
new.
Day. When he got his Stella guitar.
Yeah, about 1953, something like
But
that.
Some of your songs then, where I've seen you dancing around and playing, Whistle Bait,
Yeah.
Hot Rod, Rockaway Rock. That was pretty wild stuff, wasn't it, for the time?
Well, interesting that a couple of the songs, when we first signed with Columbia Records in, I think, end of 54, 55, we were allowed to, not allowed, but we wrote our own music back then, like Hot Rod we wrote, Whistle Bait we wrote, Mercy we wrote, and we recorded all those tracks at a place called Radio Recorders in LA, and actually used the Town Hall Party Band, which but I played all my own guitar stuff, and I mean, our original records have all been reissued on Bear Family Sony label, and all that stuff was done live, one take.
Wow.
You know. Everything back then was live television, just like live right now, live television.
But getting to the thing about the songs and the beat and being different, they were, and it's just something that I think we just were energized and like that feeling, of...
Yeah, it's in our bones, it's in our soul. We just, when it's time to pick, when Lorrie and I walk on the stage, we might seem a little subdued now, but when we walk on the stage, it's just like a feeling takes over.
What about Razzle Dazzle? Is that one of yours?
No, we didn't.
That was another one, but
everybody razzle dazzle.
The hippest dance a square can do. So,
That's right.
Yeah. But tell me about growing up and being from Oklahoma, which brings us to why you're here today. What do you remember about your early years before California? And both raised around Tahlequah, I believe. Tell me about
Well, I was born in Tahlequah, and we didn't live there very long. We actually moved around a lot when I was little, and we ended up in Prettywater, Oklahoma, which is outside of Sabapa. And so basically, that's where we went to grade school, and growing up in Oklahoma was great. We had our grandparents that had a farm, and we used to go out there every weekend and just run all around and pick blackberries, but we always had music in our life. My mother's side of the family, she lived in Oakhurst, which is outside of Tulsa. And they always used to come to because we had a dairy farm, and they'd always come after church, and every Sunday we'd all get together and sing. And so growing up in Oklahoma I mean, it was a real simple life. We didn't know anything else, but, you know, and my dad and mom both milk cows, so it was a hard life for them.
And myself, my dad was he was Oklahoma dirt.
Yeah.
This man could go hunting with a 22 with one shell and bring you back 3 squirrels. You know, a little exaggeration there. But I mean, and catfishing and Pretty Water Lake was real close to our little farm, and I used to ride our old horse Dolly bareback and probably in my underwear, just holding onto the mane, riding around that ranch. But at one point, you know, Lorrie was really truly the one that had the big voice. She had a big voice for what, a 8-9-year-old girl, and they took her out to the Cimarron Ballroom in Tulsa, where Leon McAuliffe, and she auditioned for Leon, and she got her up to sing a song, and he thought she could be great, but he said, you've got to go one of 2 places, Tennessee or L.A. or Hollywood, you know. And we happened to have an aunt who lived out in Los Angeles. So Mom and Lorrie Lawrencine May actually was her name then, and I was known as Bubby.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get the spellings later.
You don't need to worry about Lawrencine.
So Lorrie and Mom took off for California. I have a picture in our scrapbook of them leaving. That's priceless. I wouldn't trade that picture for anything. And when they went to California, they got a lot of good feedback about her singing. And when they came back, Mom just kind of laid down the law to my dad and myself and our older sister, Sherry. I have 3 sisters and a baby sister, Nikki Jean, but she wasn't born yet then. That we were going to California, and Dad and Mom, and got a little squabbles about that because Dad didn't want to go, I didn't want to go, Sherry didn't want to go.
Sherry had a boyfriend, that was her problem.
And I had Dolly, my horse. And it was an interesting, a big change, because we were true Oklahoma folks, you know.
So how old were you when you went, and what year to California?
I was 9.
9?
Yeah, I was 7.
So 2 years difference. Okay. And so in California, what I know about is having seen you, and you can still see them on YouTube, the clips of the Tex Ritter's Town Hall party, and then later the Ranch Party. I believe that was in ABC.
Hi, I'm Larry Collins. Come on in and join us on Western Ranch Party.
Nationwide show.
Yeah.
And you were regulars on there. And you're playing these, you know, energetic rock and roll songs on a country type of variety, you know, show or music show. What would you say would be the pinnacle then of the Collins kids? Because I think you made an appearance on Ozzie and Harriet. Is that right? Tell me about that.
Well, I was Ricky Nelson. He used to, which unbeknownst to us, but he used to watch Town Hall Party. It was a Saturday night event, and it was really a great show with a lot of good talent, and you know, and they had great guest stars like Johnny Cash and Wanda Jackson, but anyway, he asked one of the 4 preps. I don't know if you remember the 4 preps in the 50s. Santa Catalina.
Yeah, 26 miles across the sea.
So anyway, he was friends with one of them, and he asked, and he knew that he knew Larry and I, this Glenn Larson. So he asked Glenn if he could take him to Town Hall Party to meet me. And so that's how we met.
Wow.
And, got to be really good friends first. And he was dying to do his music, but he was kind of held back a little bit by his father because he was doing wanted to do the rockabilly thing like we were doing. So he used to come to our house a lot. We wrote songs together, and then finally we became kind of boyfriend and girlfriend, and
a little more.
well,
we won't
Were
go
you
into that.
engaged at all? Or was
well,
that
we
fair to
had,
ask?
we were young, and,
Right.
but we had our own dreams and plans.
And I would have to ask at this point in the career of the Collins kids, as with any young or youthful or child stars, somebody's growing up. You were growing up, maybe, well, that's all maybe to be debated who's grown up, but by now, and we'll talk more on that later, but I guess it became almost the Collins kid at one point. What happened there then for like the 60s? And where did...
You want to tell them the big story?
Well, it was...
As much as you want to say.
Yeah, it just...
Well, it's all out there.
I don't know. I guess I just lost my mind or something. But we were doing a lot of touring with Johnny Cash a lot. And there was Johnny's manager. His name was Stu Carnell. And he also booked Larry and I a lot. He was a booking agent as well. But we did a lot of shows with Johnny, and just, I think he became enamored with me, and I think I became enamored with him because he treated me like an adult, and it was one of those kind of deals, and ended up getting married to him.
Took off out the back one day.
I know this is hard for Larry to talk about more than you, huh?
Well, I don't know. I think maybe at this point it's harder for me,
Okay.
because, not harder, but as hard.
And you all were married for how long?
20 years.
20 years.
The good deal out of that whole thing is she has two beautiful daughters, and marriage lasted a long time.
Are they into music? Are they?
No.
No. Then, Larry, you had a few songwriting hits. Tell me about those. We have to hear about this.
No, I've been very, very fortunate to. Well, like I said, we started writing at the grand old age of 8 or 9, and I guess one of my biggest hits was a song that I wrote with a buddy of mine called Delta Dawn, and I wrote that with a guy named Alex Harvey, who's a great songwriter, lives in Nashville. And the other one I wrote, which was, as a writer, you can win a lot of awards, and but I think the one all writers would covet is the Nashville Songwriters Association Song of the Year, and it was also Grammy nominated. As a song I wrote with a buddy of mine from Louisiana. His name is Sandy Pinkard, and it's called "You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma."
Oh yes, that it's a popular one here for sure.
Oh, it's a great song.
It was interesting. They called me after, in '82 is when we wrote the song, and there was a radio station here in Oklahoma City that was a rock station. And I think at midnight, they started playing "You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma" and played it for 24 hours straight. Had people calling, and it was like this big, huge deal. This rock station's playing this song, and they played it 24 hours straight. And then they became a country radio station after that. I don't recall what the radio station was, but they flew me back for that event. And at the time, there was a guy by the name of Henson Cargill who had a hit song called Skip a Rope, had a big nightclub here, and I worked that
Henson's,
night.
yes, down on Meridian.
Yeah, it was called Henson's Inn, right? I was trying to recall what that is. And I did some shows there for them. They flew me back for it. And, but, you know, I guess of any songs I've been a part of, that song there is the deal.
That one sticks.
Yeah.
So then, when did the Rockabilly revival come along? I know in recent years you've played festivals, maybe in Europe, Las Vegas, Rockabilly festivals with that genre of music, and you're being original pioneers of Rockabilly. You're pretty popular. So tell me about the Collins kids.
Well, in the 80s, is that when they started calling about?
Yeah. Larry and I got back together, though, in that interim, and we worked all over, you know, Las Vegas, Lake Tahoe, Reno. We did a lot of the casinos, so we were still working until, I think it was like 1978 or something. And then they, agent from England started calling us like around 82, something like that, 83, and just begging us to go to England to do the Rockabilly Fest there. And I really wanted to go. Larry didn't, you know. So it was one of those kind of things, and year after year he'd call and call and call. And finally he talked Larry into it. And
well, what happened is Simi Mosley was the guitar maker who made this.
The Mosrite.
This Mosrite right there.
Did I mispronounce it? Mosrite.
Mosrite, yeah. That guitar there was made in end of 54 or 55. And it was the second double neck ever made. Joe Maphis, who was a man known as the King of the Strings, was on Town Hall Party. And Joe and I were like Mutt and Jeff. We played instrumentals together, and I'd play the bottom neck, Joe would play the top neck. And at one point, we had 3 guitar players playing my guitar, Joe Maphis, Merle Travis, and myself. And we were playing the Wildwood Flowers. Sometimes I think that video, you can see it on YouTube as well. But get on with that story. So finally, when I was contemplating, I didn't know if I wanted to start working again or not. And I was playing golf in Reno, and I was putting out on the 18th hole of this golf course. And I saw this guy standing over by a tree. And big, huge guy, hell, he looked like Bigfoot, you know. And he had something in his hand that looked like an axe, you know. And I'm trying to putt, and I missed the putt. And so finally I got it in a hole. And this guy started walking towards me, and he's carrying this thing. He kept getting closer to me, and I looked, and hair out to here and a beard down to here. And I said, Simi? Is that you? And it's Simi Mosley, the master guitar player. And he walked up and handed me this beautiful, beautiful guitar I play on stage now, double neck Mosrite, and put it in my hands. And I'm standing there, I got tears in my eyes. And he said, go back to work.
So and that was a sign, maybe?
Yeah, I went, okay. So we went, from there, we went back to Europe. And, back to Europe. Well, I guess went to Europe and started working, 2 or 3 festivals a year. And the Rockabilly music over there, the Europeans live, eat, sleep their music. If it's jazz, they do that. If it's Rockabilly, I mean, they buy 1955 refrigerators, they're into it.
Purists.
And they are purists.
Yeah, and do a lot of the big festivals, where there's 12, 15,000 people in Italy and Spain, and also in the United States now. It seems to have its ups and downs, but there's another resurgence of it as well.
Well, and which brings us here today, and the guitar. So, the guitar, tell us what's happening today and tonight.
We're so excited. This exhibit, I think it's the Rock Revival is what it's called.
At the Oklahoma History Center.
Yes.
The rock and roll, the history of rock and roll in Oklahoma is...
And they, the people that are in charge of this flew out to California.
Yeah.
What, about a year and a half or so ago?
Yeah, yeah.
And interviewed us, and their passion was just so overwhelming. You know, you just caught the fever, you know, of what they planned on doing. And they've traveled just all over the United States, interviewing, you know, musicians, stars, and it's just an incredible experience. We were at the museum yesterday, and kind of they walked us through something. There was
Give
still
us a little preview. They weren't quite still putting finishing touches on it.
But it's an incredible exhibit, and I think it'll just invoke so many memories for so many people, as well as young people. I think will really take an interest in it as well.
And yeah, if you like rock and roll, and it's amazing the musicians and the creative folks and that were born in Oklahoma who contributed to the history of rock and roll and music in general.
It's just overwhelming. I mean, even we were shocked at...
I mean, guitar players from Mason Williams on down, you know, and Leon Russell, and you know, great actors, Gary Busey, and of course Dr. Blackburn was responsible for saying yes to all this, and we owe him a great deal of.
And now we have Larry Collins' double neck guitar at exhibit at the Oklahoma History Center, and we are still making history and looking forward to tonight, and maybe having Wanda Jackson on stage, I hear, for Let's Have a Party.
From what
it's
I understand,
secret,
she might join us for a little
so let's do it.
Oh, we're
Absolutely.
going to.
We're still making history.
Yes,
Thank
we
you
are.
for coming up here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Robert Medley for News OK TV.